Hey everyone, how's it going? So I'm back to have a look at another Tiberian Sun mod as part of the, I guess, as a belated add-on to the 22nd anniversary celebrations. This is something that I just happened to stumble upon on the CNC community site. So for those who don't know, you can go to cnc.community/Tiberian Sun. They have a whole bunch of information in here and how to get set up and play it. But they also have a section here just with news and updates from the community. So stuff like version releases and mods, and I've put a few of these things up as part of the post celebration stuff, and I'd come across this, which caught my eye. So this is a release of a basically version of the Vietnam War, kind of in Tiberian Sun. It's all by this one guy, Tiger Yan. He released the actual game, Vietnam Combat Operations. It looks like in September of 2020, but this tour of duty, it's kind of like a deluxe expansion type or like quality life improvements he's made to the actual program. He actually only released this 3 months ago, so it's currently what is it? It's September, so that's like what, June, July-ish. This would have come out. So the actual link that's here goes to a forum post, which gives you some information, a little trailer of it, which you can go check out off stream. There may or may not be some questionable copyright stuff included with it, but I think this is very much a big passion project from the main developer of it. And it kind of shows throughout a lot of the work that's been put into this. The fact it's running in the Tiberian Sun engine and like the feel and stuff that they've had of it, from what I've seen, is kind of amazing. I've only briefly touched on it, and my own extensive knowledge of the whole Vietnam War and the use of specific tanks and vehicles and infantry and stuff like this is quite limited, so I can't necessarily speak to the what would you call it, the realism in terms of what the units and stuff are. But from my understanding, he was working on this for about 20 years in terms of research and trying to get the right amount of historic knowledge and trying to make it as accurate as possible. So he has put a huge amount of effort into this, and it's really cool to see that there is a playable version of this out there. And I think it's something that hasn't really been talked about a lot, and I think it's something that was kind of overlooked during the actual anniversary celebrations. So I'm making this as kind of a video to actually play it a little bit and show it off, and just give the guy some credit for the great work he's done. So there's a whole bunch of details in here. The one thing that is a little bit off-putting for me when I first went to try and play this is that he has the mod downloadable via this app.box type thing rather than have it in a zip file on ModDB. I'm not quite sure why that's the case. I can confirm that I have downloaded this from the app.box link. My computer has been fine. There's been no issues with viruses or anything like that. So if you do have concerns regarding that, hopefully that'll ease your mind a little bit. If that changes in the future, I'll be sure to add a disclaimer down in the description of the video. But I'll include the links to all the stuff I'm showing here, so you can have full access to it and check it out. There is a dedicated ModDB page for this, so the Nam Vietnam combat operations, released 1st September. Then, as I say, the most recent kind of expansion stuff was released and updated about 3 months ago. You can go on here and have a look again through a bunch of these screenshots, very similar to the forum post that we saw a second ago. He seems to be primarily communicating updates and engaging with the community over on his Facebook. I don't have a Facebook account currently, so it's not something that I engage with myself, but if you're interested, you can check that out. There's a whole bunch of information up here, articles, reviews, files, all that good stuff. So you can see he is very much involved with the development of it and has been trying to engage and keep people up to date with it throughout the months. So it looks like he posts about it at least once, twice a month here, which is super awesome to see. In terms of reviews, there are a couple of views up here, not a huge amount. Again, I think that's kind of down to popularity. As you can see, there's 8 votes submitted. The average rating for it is 10, so it's pretty damn high. But again, it's a small sample size, so take that with a slight grain of salt. But it does seem pretty damn cool. And as mentioned before, to download the mod, you need to use this app.box link. If you go into the file section of the ModDB, it'll actually just give you a PDF that'll say, hey, here's the actual location to go to. Looks pretty much, I guess I can show it briefly what it'll say, but it'll basically bring you this little PDF, how to play it. Go to the link, put it onto your computer and run the game.exe or the vico.bat. And just to give people, again, a little bit of comfort in terms of that stuff, when you download the app.box files, this is what it looks like. This is just the folder directory. A whole bunch of stuff in here. I'm currently running it from the game.exe. I've basically stuck the icon here onto my shortcut for it on the desktop just to make it look a bit nice. And they have a separate tsconfig.exe, so if you want to set custom resolutions and all that stuff, there's the place to do it. I will say that this is a little rough around the edges. I think the gameplay and the work that's gone into it is phenomenal, but I think it could use the help of the more traditional clients that are available. But I believe he's tried to look into that and he's had some difficulties, and I'm sure he's reached out to Rampa, and a few people have suggested it to him to try and engage with the other CNC mods, so hopefully they can kind of improve the interface and a few other bits and pieces. But we're pretty much just going to launch into this. You're going to see what it looks like. I'll talk a little bit about it. I haven't played a huge amount of this. I've launched it once or twice just to make sure it works. And we can go through it a little bit, show off what's actually in this thing, and hopefully you'll enjoy it. And again, just a reminder, I can't speak necessarily to the factual nature of a bunch of this stuff, but I am kind of giving a certain amount of consideration that the author of this mod has put in the groundwork for that, since he's been working on it for so long. But yeah, I'll be primarily talking about this from the RTS Tibsun engine perspective. But let's get into it. So here it is. Run this. Standard for most mods, you're pretty prompted for something like that. Another thing to point out is he actually, from looking through some of the threads, he managed to get original Chinese and Vietnamese musicians on board for some of the soundtracks, so that's really, really cool. The menu here itself is super basic. This is why you have to use the tsconfig.exe separately if you want to adjust the resolution and things. There's two options, exit and deploy. It even has a little bit of like hitchiness, like you can kind of tell this is an overlay on top of the base Tibsun engine, but it's not a big problem. Hit deploy here, and this is what you're presented with. So there's no built-in campaign. It's primarily just a series of individually created multiplayer maps, which is also a phenomenal amount of work that he would have put into this. It's not presented in form of here's a single player campaign, do this mission, this mission, this mission. So there are two sides you can choose from, Marine Corps or North Vietnam. You can choose a bunch of colors, so it defaults to green. It's kind of fitting for the setting. Bases are on, crates are on by default, bridges are destroyable by default. The other stuff is just kind of there. We'll likely not play through full missions, but we'll see how this goes. So you have the standard kind of Tibsun client here in terms of what's available. I might turn the AI levels got 0, 1, or 2. I might just turn this down to 0. I'm not quite sure if this is like easy, normal, hard, but I'm gonna work under that assumption, just so we have a chance to actually build stuff and like show off some of the units and the tech, and we don't get overly overrun by the AI basically. Game speed, I'm gonna knock this down to 5, so second highest, because it should be more playable, just in case the AI does try to charge into us. But yeah, just in terms of the maps, I guess before we kick into it, you can see there's a load of custom maps in here, and like just to like quickly flick through it. One thing that might stand out to people who play other Tiberian Sun mods is there appears to be a lot of stuff on the minimap. The thing I would give this mod high praise for is in terms of its map design. It uses a lot of civilian structures and just foliage and all those kind of assets to really make it establish its kind of environmental impact, which is super cool. But yeah, we'll try a couple of maps, show them off a little bit, or you can do this create random map. Not quite sure how well that'll work with the mod specifically. It might be good, might not be. But yeah, we'll kick into this. The custom splash screens, very nice effect. Yeah, here we go. Let's try it. So the duster tank, baton tank, gun truck, sicko track, flamethrower operator, marine scout sniper, and then this must be our Conyaard. Yeah. There's a supply cache. Get that down. Supply depot? Pretty sure this is a soundtrack from a StarCraft game. That's probably fine. So there's our supply depot, so like our harvester type situation. There is Tiberium in this, but the way that it's designed, it tends to be kind of integrated into the environment. So that's pretty cool. Let me just pop in here. turn these down a little bit. Nice. Cool. Hopefully that's a bit better. So yeah, you can see the Tiberium here. It's kind of a dull green shade. It's pretty nice. And here's just a bunch of the artifacts around the map. It's pretty cool. Ammo cache. So this is going to be your silos. Or is power plant? I mean, it kind of shot up the power there, so I'm guessing it's more for power. That's pretty cool. Commo shack here. Communication shack, I guess. Actually gives us a mobile ground radar. That's kind of cool. We got here aircraft replacements. That's nice. A nice little outpost that you can set up. Our AA truck here coming into place to try and deal with the harassment from the AI. So the aircraft revenant, so this is very much our like Orca pad type equivalent. So we get an observation chopper. One thing, the model of this I think is pretty cool. One of the things that I've seen Tiberian mods not struggle with, but have to try and work around is how to have like the blades on the chopper for their actual modifications. So in this they just give you the static mod. Like this is so cool. Like just like the music's good, the setting's good, the feel of the buildings is good. Even like the civilian models for the Vietnamese villagers, like you have the traditional hats, you have the cattle in place. Like it looks really appropriate. So what's this? This is our company command post, and it'll give us an extra harvester. Cool. And also unlock the ability to build this Cobra, which I'm guessing is more of an attack unit. This is observation. So as far as I know, this is like an Orca bomber, it looks like. This guy just observes, this guy can't attack. So I might just send him to this corner and see what he does. This guy's going to keep doing bombing runs, it looks like. They don't seem to have a dependency on having to reload ammo, so that's interesting to note. Air Control Center. Again, not super familiar with the models yet, so it's very much kind of raw first impressions, but yeah, so the Air Control Center here has given us access to a few more vehicles, quite expensive ones too. That's 3,000, that's 5,000, that's 2,500. So before we build those, we'll get a few more structures up. AA batteries, just your SAM site equivalent. Pretty nice. Howitzer battery, so this should be more your standard ground. Shooting at something off in the distance. You got some nice, again, effects here with in terms of nice little pond. You got some nice graphical overlays. It's pretty sweet. So the howitzer is kind of like it's your long range artillery. Makes sense. Here we got our San Francisco Recondo Training School. I assume it's San Francisco SF. Okay, interesting. What else we got? Is there something we're missing? The barracks, of course. So we get the barracks down. We can get a couple of riflemen.
Weapons hot! Like what the hell? Sounds like gooks in there.
Yeah, interesting take on how this is set up.
We got Charlie. Snipers along the tree line.
So that's rifleman, machine gunner, combat engineer, so you can capture structures.
Be careful with that shit, man. Is it heavy stuff, man? Will it blow me away?
Just stay quiet.
Here's a recon marine, so he's kind of got stealth. Pretty cool. Marine scouter snipe. Guard dog, interesting. Seen that in Tibsun. Marine company commander, so these would be later tier tech that we unlock through the other buildings.
Check your fire.
Okay, so the training school here, you can actually send units into it. Looks like they might get veterancy promotions from it. We've also unlocked the grenadiers here. Yeah, there's our veterancy. So here's the grenadiers. So they got like a grenadier launcher. Pretty cool. Next up, we can check out the motor pool, so it should give us access to vehicles. Also the Huey is here, of course. That's basically like your Apache equivalent. So you got mortar crew. Assumably these can shoot long range. It's pretty nice. Platoon leader. So kind of does a nice little splash damage effect, which shoots out some smoke.
Let's get out of here.
which does do some damage to the units.
Let's get out of here.
Pretty cool. Yeah, we got the trucks now. So supply truck. This is like your harvester. That's what all these dudes are doing. Here's your mutt, your M105. So it's kind of like a sort of Humvee equivalent. It's pretty cool. Seems to have a deploy option built into it, but you can't actually use it. So I'm not quite sure what that's for. Possibly you could put infantry into it. We'll see. Yeah, so you put infantry into it and you take them out. It's interesting. So that's the mutt. Next up we have the LVTP5 AM track. Big model. It's pretty cool. It's nice effects to it. In terms of its damage, you can see there it does have a machine gun fire.
Let's get out of here.
Again, you can board this. This feels to me like a huge APC that you should be able to fit a lot of infantry into. We'll see if that turns out to be the case. And again, if you're more familiar with the history of the war and the units being used at the time, it'll make more sense. But you can tell even just visually that this can hold a huge amount of units. Not having visibility in terms of what's actually inside it is a little bit of a weird UX experience for the player, so you don't know if your units, how many it holds, how many go into it. That's alright. Next up we have the M113 ACAV. So here, again, very much machine gun fire stuff. You can tell from a lot of these vehicles it's more machine gun than, we'll just say, more traditional warhead / like medium tank style stuff. There's the second one, there's your eco again. You can see the production speed of these units is pretty quick too once you have the eco for it. It's kind of interesting to note. Here we have an M106 mortar carrier. As you can see there, it's doing kind of some splash mortar fire. We got the M132 Zippo track, so this seems like a fire flame tank type equivalent. Let's go into the trees and try to fire them, see what happens. Pretty cool. So it's kind of similar to the Devil's Tongue that Nod have. It's nice. It's nice. We got the M42A1 Duster. So this looks like more of a traditional tank type unit. Yeah, so it's firing off some shells. Pretty cool. With the M551 Sheridan tanks. This is the more traditional tank that you'd likely be familiar with. Yep. So this is like your main tank of choice, or would be for me at least. Here's our Patton tank, the M48A3. This is a much bigger looking turret on it. That's pretty cool. We have the self-propelled artillery. So this is like your actual RT equivalent, I suppose. I will say that the models for this and this are super similar, but I'm assuming this is much further range. Yeah, a lot further range. You can see this must get much closer. Pretty cool. We get the self-propelled howitzer. This is a big tank. So it's kind of similar to the static one, except for obviously it's mobile. The V100 armored car. So I imagine this is just for quick infantry transport. Yeah, you can put infantry on board, makes sense. The Quad 50, a gun truck. So that's just standard anti-air unit. Here we have an M50 Ontos FSV. Okay, this looks pretty cool, like chain gun tank. Okay, doing splash, like kind of splash mortar fire almost. Pretty cool, pretty cool. Zippo track, I think we got one of these before. Yeah, we have. So we got these. Repair vehicle, makes sense, and then the mobile ground radar. So here's a repair vehicle. Did that build the mobile ground radar? Am I blind? Ah, it did, yeah. It's here. And that deploys into these little I guess, mini radar sections. So because I saw Fog of War was an option in the actual settings, you could use those to try and get key points across the map. Pretty cool. You got access to light posts. Seem to take power, interesting. Which I can get from ammo cache, I believe. Yeah, there we go. Nice. It's kind of a clever way of working around, like you're not going to build power plants like out in the open, like for these kind of bases, right? I got the classic Semper Fi's, pretty cool. Pretty cool. Combat foxhole here, from what I've seen before. I believe these are like basic toolbox type setups. Kind of like a level 1 component tower that's got a Vulcan attached, but you do have these additional attachments. So you can give it a foxhole upgrade, so it'll be better at machine gunning, or you can give it the Claymore Mines, which I guess gives it actual tank fire, like so. Accidentally hitting my own unit in the process there, but that's fine. That's pretty cool. Reinforced bunker.
I see someone.
I assume I can put units into it. No, I can't put units into it. So this is very much more of a just static defense structure. An aid station here is for probably producing or healing your units.
Tell us where the killing's at.
But we'll pop these guys. Yeah, pop some riflemen in here, train them up a bit. But yeah, the music is really nice. And like just the overall setting of this, between like the graphical effects, even like the air units being these choppers. Some of the units are voiced. As you could hear earlier, there are some slurs, which obviously I don't necessarily approve of. But it was the the modder's choice in terms of what was actually relevant at the time, from a historic perspective, and they were just obviously going with that to try and fit in with the setting. But in terms of just the general aesthetics of this, like between the music, the foliage, as I said before, like it's so green. One thing that does stand out from a Tim Sun perspective is that there's not a huge amount of I was gonna say there wasn't a huge amount of hills and variation, but there is some here. So it seems like they might just give you kind of the leniency of a nice starting area so that you can get your stuff up and running okay. As I say, your eco's kind of booming because you get these trucks with like so many of these structures, it seems like. It's pretty cool. Again, a lot of nice, you got the villagers and like just some of these nice doodads on the map that look very aesthetically pleasing and relevant. You can see that our like kind of the Tiberian equivalent here just seems to be regrowing at quite a high rate, so you're not getting eco-locked or having to worry about expanding necessarily as you might in more in other RTS games or other modifications of the Tibsun engine. What I might do is just spam a bunch of tanks and see if I can go into them. So we'll get a bunch of Sheridans. Does seem a little bit finicky in terms of what the unit queue situation is, because you saw there earlier I could queue up a certain amount of tanks. I wonder if I need supply depots to be able to build more, or if there's like some strange underlying mechanic to enable you to keep producing units. Yeah, so I seem to be maxed out of Sheridan tanks. Maybe there's a hard limit in terms of the amount of vehicles and units you can produce. Again, I haven't looked a huge amount at this. I kind of want to just get general first impressions and show it off a little bit. But yeah, we'll check out the map. We'll kind of explore a bit. Like, this looks pretty cool, right? Like, you got the proper setting. Nice little villages here. Sound effects, relatively nice. Seems fitting. So yeah, we got this kind of action going on. Soundtrack's super chill. Definitely a big fan of it. I guess we can build some more of these air units now that we have the cash, right? So we have the Skyhawk. This little bombing run. This one does need to recharge. So we'll get him down. Here we have the Bronco, which I assume is just a higher, a slightly different kind of caliber in terms of what it's shooting at. Here we have the fast mover Phantom. So again, similar in terms of the bombing run. If you're more familiar with the story context of a lot of this, obviously this will be a lot cooler. But yeah, it's pretty nice. So it's nice that you have the option of the variation between like the helicopter units, which seem to not require ammo necessarily, and then the other ones. The AI seems to be coming into us here. When you're playing this on normal or harder difficulty, it is going to, of course, vary in terms of what's accessible to you. So that's pretty nice. I guess we could try to use these and attack the opponent here, or whatever they're doing. Yeah, this is pretty nice. Let's see what they're doing their little bombing runs and like just toward the end. Again, all feels very true to what the mod is trying to achieve. Here we have in the middle a Buddhist pagoda, so there are catchable structures. So let me pump out a engineer, which I have in here somewhere. I'm just not used to the cameos on the side. Probably take a little bit of getting used to.
I can breathe, man.
Yeah, you can hear the repair truck doing some damage here, or doing some repairs. Yeah, it's pretty cool. I'm not quite sure what this range vision stuff is. So there are certain structures in the war. You can see it here. I think it's just AA units possibly shooting the observation chopper. Maybe it was artillery units shooting the earlier scouts that made this visible. These guys need to go back up to the Tib, so they have actually managed to mine this out, and they're looking for an alternate source. Luckily, there's one up here, so we can send them there, or they can use this huge field here. So yeah, huge fields of Tiberian. But like I say, they blend the aesthetic pretty well, because obviously there wasn't actually Tiberian in the Vietnam War, but in terms of trying to make it aesthetically relevant, and makes sense, I think they do a pretty good job. This guy, the commando, he actually, when he attacks, he has the ability to call in like a mortar strike, so he'll attack here and you can see there the mortars going off. It's kind of a nice idea for a commando unit. It's different, not something you tend to see in a lot of these sort of modifications. What else we got? Let's build some more tanks. We can only build one Zippo truck, okay. We build a few dusters. Again, not super familiar with what the restrictions is in terms of the actual vehicle limits. But yeah, as I said before, the base game came out back in September of last year, and then they had the larger update to it more recently, 2-3 months ago. So it's around June, July 2021. Pretty interesting to see, obviously very different. I think what they added with that was a lot of the air units, so a few of those additional air units that we'd seen. So a lot of that was kind of new. I believe there are also boats, but I think it might be map dependent whether or not you actually have access. I don't think you get access to the tech, but I certainly don't have access to water on this level to even try it, like just tiny bits. Like more just aesthetically here and here, so I couldn't even get out like a shipyard or equivalent if there is one. But yeah, I think that's a good place to hop into another map and check out the other faction. But it's pretty interesting, as we can see, a whole bunch of cool new units. You have of course graves and like the features like that, which are very, again, reminiscent of what was actually visible at the time in these areas. Just the general mood and theme to it feels nice. You have the traditional music, you have the nice, luscious scenery. You kind of get that nice, dad, monkey, human feeling you might be having in these kind of environments. You do have access to like the pagoda here. I guess I can go about capturing that. Where's my barracks? Here. So if I think they might have killed my engineer if I don't already own this. Oh no, I do own it. Okay, cool. I did manage to get it. So you can see here when you click on it, the power usage and drain. Very standard for Tib Sun. So same with the caches. So Cobra, shut it off a bit, doing some circles. Don't seem to have access to Q move for air units, but that's a standard thing for Tib Sun. Also don't seem to have it for basic tanks. Not a huge problem necessarily, but just worthy to note that it doesn't seem to be here by default. Pretty cool. We'll do a little run with these planes and then we'll load them to the map. Show it off some more. Pretty cool. Here you can see infantry hiding in the bushes and stuff. Very cool. Infantry definitely seem to be able to take on a much bigger role in a map like this, especially when you've got such heavy foliage across the place. Yeah, that's pretty cool. Let's check out the other faction on a different map and see how their sort of general unit and tech structures go. Obviously, we haven't seen anything in terms of like super weapons and stuff like that. It's not really appropriate for the time. You could potentially argue that, you know, you could get an airstrike or something similar, but yeah, let's try playing as Vietnam this time. We'll change the map up. We did the first map. Maybe we'll just go for one in like the middle, and then we can play like a third one towards the end or something like that. So these seem to be kind of larger multiplayer maps, some of them, possibly. You can't really tell. They might all just be designed for 1v1 play, but it's just when I see multiple red dots, it gives me the indication that it's possibly a map intended for a bigger situation. So we'll try this one. Short timers, Fist Alpha. Unit count, we can reduce this a little bit. I think starting with a lot of stuff isn't super helpful necessarily. AI players 1, yeah, because this looks like it might be intended for like multiple players. It's hard to tell from the preview. We'll try a different color. We'll go with, just you're playing Vietnam, I guess we'll go with orange. It's kind of similar to khaki, right? Yeah, we'll try this. Again, splash art, it's very nice. Okay, we've got AA trucks, AA truck, and AA truck. These are all promoted by default. It's kind of cool. So base camouflage. Interesting. So you get this kind of stealth unit straight at the gate. Super cool. Supply depot. So here's our harvest setup. Connection to the Ho Chi Minh Trail. Okay, this gives us access to the Viet Cong Guerrilla as well as the Viet Cong Spy. So the Guerrilla, I'm guessing, is just a basic infantry unit. What? Not quite sure what happened here. Okay, so yeah, that's your basic militia. Your Viet Cong Spy here has ability to a small pistol. I imagine it does not do high damage. Probably infiltrate enemy structures, maybe. The voice acting a little bit on the questionable side. Truck park connection. Alright. Interesting. This gives you the ability to build supply trucks, so you can build more harvesters with it. Camouflage bunker. So you can have your standard bunker here. Camouflage pillbox and illumination torch. Cool. So that's like your light post equivalent for this faction. A little bit on the bright side, but I can't sell it. Cool. Radio relay station. Okay, so this is giving us to a lot more tech units, so we can radar them in. Cool use of the base Tib Sun assets here, actually. So yeah, radio relay station gives us access to the mortar crew, which you've seen before. An NBA Sapper. Sappers traditionally I would associate with explosive units.
Có cái gì mà.
Đạn rồi, chỉ huy.
Okay, so they control in the kind of near close range grenadier type style. It's nice. An RPG gunner. Standard RPG unit. Pretty cool. Mobile ground radar, we've seen this before. I guess we'll deploy it up here a little bit and test if you can build off it. I assume you probably can. You can build this amphibious tank. This comes out of the okay, so the truck park connection is where the tanks come out of. Here's your amphibious tank. So it does some explosive damage. I'm assuming you can you board it too? Oh jeez. That guy died. Mobile ground radar. Deploy that there. Yes, the amphibious tank here doesn't seem to be able to hold infantry, but it has the advantage of being amphibious in general, which is pretty good. Village supply cache, this should boost our power. Yep. Well, it's a troop truck. Try one of these. What's this do? I'm assuming this is the this is more of an APC. Cannon fire. Yeah, it's got basic machine gun. Here we have a BTR 152 AA truck. This one's kind of cool for the anti-air. They're of course the units we started off with as well. We got a mortar position. This will strike me as kind of similar to the howitzer. Long range mortar fire turret. Static defense. Pretty cool. The anti-aircraft gun, of course your SAM site type equivalent. Model looks pretty cool, we got this battalion command post. It seems to come with a nice little trike. This is kind of nice alternate vehicles that are relevant, like having the bike go off and get like the Tiberian resources, or have the trucks. It's kind of nice variation. It's a nice effect. So we now unlock the ability to get the engineer, the Viacom suicide zappers to deliver more heat to blow up. Makes sense. Viacom medic, and the tanks. We got the PAVN T-34/85 battle tank. The effects here are kind of interesting in terms of the dead animations there, where they're crawling off. You see like the kind of hand gestures too. Interesting, or like a potential flower. It's nice. So the battle tank here is pretty cool, again, don't seem to be able to use shift or Q move necessarily. It just moves straight away in that direction. That's fine. Here we have the Shilka tank, the ZSV-23. Again, you can tell that a lot of there's a lot of care put into trying to maintain reality with this stuff, giving you the full model numbers. The ZIL 157K engineer truck. Not quite sure what an engineer truck would enable. I guess this is only for you to be able to put engineers inside of, which seems... No, you can't. I guess this is probably more for... Let me see. If I attack this, maybe it'll just... Yeah, it's a repair truck. That makes sense. And here we have a 3.7mm gun, Limbert. This is like a deployable forward version of static defense. Here we have a regimental command post. We'll get that set up. We'll pop that out here. This gives us access to the Viacom sniper, the Kong assault trooper, so we'll get a couple of those. The recoilless rifle. Cool. Again, there's a lot of variation here in terms of infantry. I'll get the power back up in a sec, but here's a AA tank. Scary looking guy. With the artillery gun set up, so this is going to be your mobile gun that you put forward. This one's more of a machine gun type setup. It seems to have vanished entirely. The model's there, but I can't actually select it, I don't think. Kind of crazy. So there's your camouflage artillery. Let's get the supply depot, get the power, or the ammo cache. Is it the supply depot? Supply depot was actually to get the harvester, but it's more the supply cache what we want. Yeah, this is to get our power back up. Get a few of these. Again, the aesthetic's pretty cool. Because you're likely to need a lot of power, it's naturally going to look like these civilian structures. That's really nice. Again, the music's super atmospheric. Big fan of it. Fortified hut. I'm guessing this is like a pillbox. Yep. hidden tunnels, interesting one. It's kind of different. Again, you're getting you're getting a lot of free trucks with these things that you're building. So can I put these into the tunnel? I'm not quite sure how the hidden tunnels work. Maybe give you access to certain structures. I don't seem to be able to put infantry inside of them or anything like that. Yeah, we'll build a few tanks. I seem to be able to queue a maximum of 5 when I am able to build tanks. As far as I know, these are ground. Yeah. Shield tanks are ground. Makes sense. So it seems like I can kind of queue these up to 5 until a certain point, then I can only queue them at 1. I don't know if that's intentional or if that's just a fun bug feature of the mod. Nothing's perfect. This is pretty cool. You have Vietnamese farmers coming out of some of the structures to actually get the Tiberium, and they actually have the full models done up with them dragging it back on their shoulders. It's super cool. I'm not sure where these came from specifically, what structure, but it's a real nice aesthetic. Yeah, let's build a lot of stuff and just like see how it holds up, right? I don't seem to be able to set rally points on these structures either, so for production I can't set the war factory or the barracks to bring all the units out in one location. They just come out wherever they land. Yeah. Get some more of the guerrillas, I guess, NVA regulars. We have a bunch of tanks. Get some more if we can. Just to kind of see what it looks like if we like charge at the enemy with a whole bunch of stuff. So that'd be cool, right? Here we have a MiG interceptor base, so this will give us access to our air units. So I'm guessing a lot of the units added via this came with the latest updates for the modification. Or it's not going to give us access to any of that stuff. Actually, it's like you get a little elephant model with this one. What is it? It's a Viacom pack elephant? That's pretty cool. So each individual structure has their own kind of associated harvest unit with it. Very cool. MiG revetment. And there you get your little bike guy. And this is going to give us access to the MiG tech. It's the PAVM MiG 17 Fresco. See if we can get it to force fire the ground. Having a bit of difficulty. There we go, that's pretty cool. Here we have Fansong SA2AA radar. Okay, maybe it's a long range anti-air unit. Anti-air defense or at least tracker. And here we have Samsung. Interesting. Not quite sure how that works. Yeah, we're going to take all of our key units here. So it looks like supply depot here has got the bikes. Like overall, just the aesthetics of this is really impressive. Like you wouldn't think that this is the Tiberian Sun engine. Besides, obviously, there's rear, but they've done a real nice job. Yeah, it's really cool. I don't know. So we go through the map. I guess we can show off a little bit of the map. Be good. So again, huge amount of foliage. You can see a lot of explosions and craters already in place. But also like all these custom assets, they actually look really nice. Like even the rock faces. You got the variation of the berries in the trees. And again, the huge efforts that went to in order to try and not disguise the Tiberium, to make them blend in more naturally to the environment. Super cool. And they do, because the maps are naturally going to be super green, I can see on the mini-maps that they've emphasized making the Tiberium purple, so it actually stands out from the rest of the fauna and flora, if you like, on the map. It's pretty damn cool. Okay, it's like I can actually queue up quite a lot of those gunners. It's nice. Again, you can hear the engine revving. There is some voice acting for individual units. Doesn't seem like they are all fully voice acted by any means. But yeah, wow. So you can see the huge amount of mortars back here, all these individual like positionings. So when you charge into your opponent, it's just going to be utter chaos. And you can see them here repairing their structures. Which is the other kind of nice side to this, is that like it very much feels like a base is a part of the terrain and not something definite. Like I was able to walk into this not realizing, oh yeah, these are actually enemy structures, which can be a good or bad thing, but like on a map like this you should be more aware that there's not going to be civilian structures, right? It's super cool, very immersive. And again, for something that was, as far as I'm aware, was made all by one guy over a time period of like initially the first game was like 20 years, and then he put out this big huge air and sea update. Like it's a lot of amazing work done by the guy. So fair play to him. Not quite sure what this is about. Traveler's Palm? It's a pretty cool visual effect though. Yeah, still killing it with the soundtrack. Torch is actually kind of nice to make your base in it a little bit easier to see. A bit of AI glitchiness here, to be expected. But yeah, it seems like having the heavy mortar defenses will definitely work in your favor. Don't let the opponent get near you, and when they do, you can then counterattack. This guy, like the engineer's truck, yeah, he's just there to repair stuff if it needs repairing. Yeah, let's look. I think that was pretty much everything from this faction. I mean, we didn't get to see the. I guess we didn't get to see the MiG attack something, so we can send it in here against the Buddhist monk. She's a bit dark, but yeah, like all these custom sprites for individual infantry units and stuff, and just like even the attention to detail to like the shanties and the individual unit models and the cameos too. Like it's very different. Like you can just tell that so much work went into it. These guys seem to have a hard time tracking, but I think this is a general thing for Tib Sun. I've seen this in a few mods where if you've like not necessarily banshees, but like aircraft that are meant to go in and do kind of a bombing run of sorts, they can have some difficulties with that. There we go. So we got that. Nice. Oh, it's pretty cool. Yeah, so that's kind of a brief look at the two factions. We can try out one more map and maybe see if we can play it out and win a potential match. I don't have high hopes because again I have no idea about the actual tech in this and what makes the most sense. But maybe we can find, if I could find a multiplayer one and put on a couple of extra AI, that might be nice to see, so we can have a look and see how they actually build up. But the impression I get here is that it's primarily 1v1s. And again, the nature of these maps, I'm not too familiar with how the settings are applied, or if it's a case that these are very real scenarios in which that they're trying to mimic with the engine, in which case that's super cool. And it does seem like they are named after years and stuff, so quite likely that that is the case. These are individual war battle settings, so it's super interesting, especially with that much effort put into it. Haven't seen. I guess it's just primarily the aircraft that they added in the last patch and the quality of life improvements. I haven't seen necessary access to water units or anything like that, so I'm not so sure that's necessarily a thing. Yeah, this kind of looks like it's meant for multiple spawns. Just at a guess, it's kind of hard to tell. I don't know. I don't think I can even select additional allies or anything like that, so never mind. I guess we'll go back to the Marine Corps for the last one. Go with the more traditional sky blue I tend to play. Yeah, so it is very limited, to say again, in terms of like the shell, like trying to pick out the settings and stuff in the menus here. Not being able to necessarily do it via multiplayer, although someone I think had mentioned it to the developer about it, and he said he would like to try implement it. It's just a matter of time and resources and everything else. So yeah, let's pop into one last game and check out this map and see how it goes. Let's see if we can try and do proper damage this time. So this is supply cache, supply depot. This will get us our resources. Seems you can only build one supply cache, so it's like a tech building type thing. It's fine. Ammo cache, get ourselves some power. Commo shack. Cool. Do I have my barracks? Don't seem to have access to my barracks yet. Okay. Get ourselves an observation chopper. Get our racks down. I'm just gonna spam a bunch of infantry. I'm sure that's probably fine. Ground post. Check. Get a Cobra. Cool. We'll send our observation chopper all the way down here. See what he gets on. Again, these are the kind of things I'm not too sure about, like getting vision of all this stuff. I don't know how intentional it is this early on.
I got the splash, one splash.
It's pretty cool. You can see the power dropping unit when it dies there.
Down to 3,000 here, monster.
We get the motor pool. Seems here by default we have some pillboxes. It's kind of nice. We'll put ground radar, that's fine. Did he kill my harvester? He might have killed my harvester, I don't actually know.
What the hell?
Kind of nice to give you these like default structures, even if they're not under your ownership. I don't know if they'll attack me or not, hopefully not. Nah, I'm alright. Okay, cool. Here we can see the armored car and the A gun truck trying to do some damage. So we get the motor pool set up. Sweet. And now we'll spam a bunch of what's a good tag? Baton? You can see the AA there being attacked. Okay. So we got the batons up here. Okay, it looks like now I can... No, it's just because I selected the tanks. I thought for a second there the rally stuff worked, but no. What are this? These are the Sheridans. Yeah, so the Sheridans are the more minigunner and the batons are the heavy firing stuff. This guy actually does damage, so I can potentially attack the enemy with this. Not sure why this guy's gone all the way behind enemy lines to take out this this air unit, but alright. Guy's on a mission. Can't knock him for that. Combat foxhole, of course, as we said before, these are like mini turrets that you can upgrade with these improvements. Light posts, just for good measure. Just to make it look a little bit aesthetically pleasing, right? That's good. I think mortar crews are probably good. Keep these in the back, along with the minigunners to defend them. Tanks here are doing some nice damage to units in the shrubs and the bushes. I'll go for these Vietnamese structures. These seem to be by default, like to the map, so it might just be a case that you're on enemy territory or on allied territory, and depending,
Tell us where the killing's at.
the map may be more favorable towards one of you than the other. Again, if you know the historical context, it will make a lot more sense, of course. But just from a gameplay perspective overall, this is pretty cool. I do think that there's a lot to it, coming from someone who's not super familiar with the history of this, but it's definitely interesting. You have these crates. These are like pick-upable crates, so similar to other Tiberian games, I guess, right? Can I walk here? Can I not walk here? I thought I saw him walk on that crate and pick it up. Not so sure about that. It looked like you could.
Let's get out of here.
Let's send these guys in and see this goes. Try to take it this little village.
Let's
Gooks in there.
mental command post. Not quite sure what this will do. I guess it'll give him a promotion. It's kind of cool. Yes, there he goes, pops out with the promotion. Seen similar mechanics in different tips on mods. It's a nice little feature. It's kind of again placing a nice emphasis on using your infantry as opposed to having to rely overly on tanks or air units, especially if you can get them that quick promotion as soon as they're constructed.
Let's get out of here.
Yeah, let's try and go down this way, see what happens. Something's caught a glimpse of this guy. Oh, whoops. Don't know why that happened. We good? That crashed it. Okay, I pressed the 4 key and for some reason rather than selecting the unit, I crashed it. But from what I have played of this so far, it's been pretty stable. I've only played, as I said, a couple of skirmish missions, and it's been okay. Yeah, it's totally crashed. That's fine. Yeah, let me just pop it back open quick. We can talk a little bit more about it before closing up here. But the intention, as I said before, was just to show this off a little bit. It didn't seem to be included in the official celebrations. The guy behind it may not have been made aware of it. They're primarily putting a lot of their resources and energy into keeping the community updated via their Facebook stuff. So on their ModDB page, you can check that out. I'll bring that up here separately. Let me just ModDB, the NAM Tib Sun. If you search that into Google, you'll find it, but here it is as well. Is my screen not showing this? Why is my screen not showing this? There we go. Yeah. So you can go to the NAV Vietnam Combat Operations on ModDB. I'll leave the link in the description if you want to go check it out if you're interested in that kind of thing. I think, as we said there, the maps are very cool, the setting is very cool, the aesthetics are very cool. If you're into the historic aspects of it, I'm sure the settings of those maps as well is very relevant and interesting to you. As I said here, it was originally released in September of last year, but I got the major update called Tour of Duty, which was released in May. So the official date for that was May. I was saying June, July earlier, so apologies for that. Yeah, it gives you a greatly enhanced version of it. It does suggest there's now naval warfare and vicious dogfights. I haven't really been able to get into the naval stuff in what we've seen here, but I'm sure you can find a way to dig into that into the mod. The maps themselves seem to be primarily based on the more traditional ground-based combat stuff, but I'm sure you can dig through the various missions there and find what you want. Again, we've seen some of these kind of signs and stuff in game, so it's very, very cool, very different. Again, you can check out some of the videos if you want to get into the details of how do I focus primarily on the vehicles versus the infantry versus the air versus the sea. I'm sure they actually have dedicated videos for that. I haven't checked it out yet. They seem to have emphasized in the past a whole bunch of tips and tricks in terms of trying to beat the AI. So it is very tricky, as we've seen here. If you don't know what you're doing, you just go head first into a bunch of mortar fire and just absolutely die and get wrecked. But on their ModDB page, as I said before, you can find the follow page for them. You find the FB page, and on the ModDB, if you actually go to download it through this, it'll just give you a file that'll say go to a link and download it there, which I have done before, and it's been all gravy so far. Here it is as well, if you don't want to stress too much about it. But I'll just leave this up briefly so you can have a look at it, and if you do want to check it out, by all means do. It's pretty fun. As I say, there is some elements to it in terms of racial slurs and aesthetics around the Viet Cong that may or may not necessarily be morally correct in the modern day and age, but it seems that the author behind this mod was very much in favor of just recreating what the actual aesthetic of the time was, or what was not relevant to the setting. And overall, I think it's done in a reasonably tasteful way. There's some room for improvement, but I definitely say, check this out and give the guy, give him a follow on Facebook or wherever else it is, and see if he hopefully manages to do some upgrades to get it better embedded into the more traditional Tib Sun client that people are using for the likes of DTA, and a bunch of other mods. I think for the majority, the Tiberian Sun mods tend to be based on the GTA engine, the CNCnet stuff, and it just seems to be better editable or integratable for individual mods. So yeah, so this is here section 1, how to play. You can pause the video here if you want to check that out. Scroll down a little bit. This is a 31-page document, so we're not going to go into it too much. Game controls, credits, infantry units. So there's a full breakdown here of what each individual unit does, so that's super cool to know. Very nice to get into each individual unit. Again, we only seen some of them kind of in action, just to demonstrate that they are available and what it looks like generically speaking, but you can dig down into this document and see what each individual's strengths and weaknesses are, how it'll play up against mirror matchups versus Americans versus Viet Cong matchups. As I said, it's kind of a shame that it doesn't necessarily have the facility to currently support multiplayer. The only options, as we witnessed earlier, is pretty much to get into a skirmish game against the AI. But while they're still doing some work on it, I think that's totally fair and reasonable to still have a good time playing it online. So you can see a little glimpse at some of the boats that they've added here, similar in a lot of ways to the vehicles in terms of like the Dragon's Tongue equivalent, shooting fire, or you got a mortar type boat, or you have more of a machine gun type boat. Makes sense. Viet Cong rice harvesters. So as we kind of seen when we were playing it, it's pretty cool. The pack elephant, like the buffalo cart, the Viet Cong porter, like this stuff is really cool, and very nice touch, because it's very easy when you're making a mod like this to just go, yeah, here's the supply truck harvester equivalent, that's it, we're done. So yeah, it's pretty cool. Again, the tank overview, this is actually a really nice document. I'll probably look at this myself a bit more offline, and I'll likely play this again at least once or twice in my own time, potentially off stream. If I do record some, I'll be sure to put it up on YouTube. But it's pretty cool in terms of what is in here and what you do have access to. And yeah, a bunch of screenshots and a whole bunch of interesting overview of all the individual units, and I'm sure their historic relevancy and everything else is tied into it, and civilian structures here in terms of what things you can capture and not capture, and even like stuff like this, destroying the Catholic Church will damage your victory points or whatever. Like, it's kind of interesting to see if you're interested in that kind of scoring type setup. They have thought a little bit about that, and like they've done some innovative things. It's super cool. And then yeah, farm life, a whole bunch of details around that. Cattle, you lose points by killing them, so if you're using mortar units and stuff like that, it's going to impact your scoring. So there's a whole bunch of cool things there. As it says here, game includes over 3 dozen maps based on historical battles, campaigns, and famous books about the Vietnam War. So that is confirmation that they are based on that historical information. It's really cool. Please play only one opponent, as the game is not designed for you to fight multiple AI foes. Makes sense. Please do not take fog of war, bridge destroyable, as the game might hang. So yeah, it's still a work in progress. Makes sense. It gives you kind of a little bit of flavor text here for each one of these individual maps, so that's pretty cool. So if you want to play through them one at a time, it's probably how I would approach it. I would load up the mod, I would start on mission 1, work my way through that, get to like skirmish at map 2, and like treat them like individual missions, even though they're not kind of wrapped with a bow tied around them. Like there's a lot in there, and those maps that we did play, even though the aesthetics were kind of similar in terms of the foliage and like the the audio settings and stuff, like the map layout did feel very different, and I could see how you could exploit certain things in certain maps in terms of mortar spamming, or if you go for pure air, or if you go for pure infantry and going through the trees on one side of the opponent's base, or if you're playing as the Viet Cong, taking advantage of stealth and stuff like that. So it's super cool. And yeah, it gives you some information here about the additional maps and things that have been added onto the game. So yeah, this is all in all pretty cool. As you can see, Tiger Yan, he's the main man behind this. He's been doing a lot of work to get this in place. So I think, yeah, I'd like to just show this off a little bit today, give a shout out to him and the work that he's done as part of the 22nd anniversary celebrations of Tiberian Sun. And it's cool to see that you can do such different things with it. But that's pretty much going to be it for me here today. I'll have links down in the chat below, or down in the description below, just giving information about how to access all these things. And if you have any questions or comments or anything like that, you can feel free to leave them in the comments below. And again, reach out to Tiger Yan himself. You can ping him on, it seems Facebook is his go-to touch point, or the forums on ModDB, or the first link that we looked at that was on CNC Community Forum. So yeah, peace out, guys. Thanks for hanging out. That's gonna do it for me. Take care.